Good afternoon, everyone. It's Michael here from Michael's Card Art. I've got a project for you this afternoon. It's one that I've done a couple of times, and each time I make it, I vary what the actual overall object looks like. But I don't have any hard copies to show you because they've all been given away. But what I would like to do is just refer you to a video I did of this that placed it up on my Instagram and Facebook site. So here's the project. So I hope that gets you excited about the project for this afternoon. What I'll do is I'll show you the dimensions that we're going to be playing with. Now these are dimensions, if you'd like to take a screenshot of those, are for the actual card base. Now, and when I say the card base, I mean the card base and the various elements that go with it. And what I've got here are the trifold gates and also the planter boxes and the inserts. Sorry, that all looks a bit messy. And the inserts, and also, so they're the measurements I'm giving you on that sheet there. For the other elements, for the decoration, what I've simply done is this is not mandatory, it's optional, and I'll show you where these fit in when we go to pull the card, overall card together. But you can basically see that the measurements fit very nicely within the elements of the measurements that I've already given you there, as an example. And then the gatefold, what I've done there for those is each of the gatefolds has one of these that sit and complement it. Okay, so the measurements I've given you once again are just for the necessary elements, and the brickwork, for example, that's not included in this, but I'm sure you can pretty easily work those measurements out once you get to that stage if you decide to do that. Let me just show you what the planter looks like. So this is the actual planter itself. You can see, as I said there on the measurements, the planters are 5 inches by 1.5 inches, and they're scored at 1 inch, 2.5 inches, and 3.5 inches to give you that effect. And the insert will sit inside like that to give you an effect that looks like that. And that allows you to put in multiple rows of plants into the planter to give you a very busy foliage look. Okay, so let's get started with the overall project, and we'll start with the actual card base. Now, as I said, this is larger than what I normally do. I usually cut mine down to 5 inches, but for the purpose of this exercise, I've made it 8 inches by the 6 inches, just so that it's easier when it comes to measuring and putting on your gatefold. Okay. All right, so I've cut all of that in advance, and let me start putting it together for you. So what I do need is some glue, which I didn't have that out. Okay, so the base card scored at 2 inches and at 6 inches. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble basically the gates on here. Now, what I've done, I've taken the liberty to just check that these are all going to fit comfortably. And there's always a little bit of what we call crafter's license, as opposed to poetic license, just to make all of this fit comfortably and well. All right, so you get a sense there. And then what I'm going to do is I will place the brickwork over those gates. Now, this brickwork will need to be trimmed down, even though it is the corresponding size, only because for ease of operation. But that's something that you'll see as I work through it. Now, let me show you that there, what that trim down will look like. So I usually do it this way. It's really by sight. And I'm going to trim here, and I'm going to trim this one here. And that way it gives me a border on each side. So that's the first one. The second one is here. I like to leave a bit of a border, as you can see there, on each one of these. A bit lower. That's that one. And the last one is here. There we go. And yeah. Okay. Let me go and cut those down for you. I'll just pause this. I'll get those cut and I'll be back. Okay, so I've cut those down to size, those brick walls, and in the interest of time, I've already glued 2 of them, and now we'll just do the last one. Okay. So you can see I've deliberately kept a bit of a border for the stonework to go on there. Okay, so effectively that's what you're looking for there. Now, they will go on to the wall and they'll be glued alternatively. So this one will be glued on this side, this one will be glued on this side, and this one will be glued on the same side as the first one, so that you get that opening effect. Anyway, so let me just do that for you now. Now the trick here is just make sure you adhere just enough glue that you don't go over that section there, and just hold it in such a way that you can see you only want this half glued. There you go. Okay, leaving a little bit of a border there for yourself at the top there, making sure that that holds. I'd say 5 seconds usually is enough time. Now, the next one is, as I said, going to be glued here on this side. A little bit of a gap there, not too much of a gap. If you do see you're going to have too much of a gap, there's lots of things we can do to remedy that at the end. So as you can see, if I push that there, you can see I've got a gap, just a border gap there, and also a slight border gap here. Okay, let's go in and add the second gate, and I need to glue only as far as there. Okay, folding it down. And there we go. Okay, and the third gate will go here, like such, and there we're. Okay. There's the external part of our gate. Tri-door gatefold complete. Okay, it's starting to take shape. Now we need to do the same on the inside, and once again, in the essence of time, I have prepared these, but you will see I've got a little bit of overhang, so I'm going to cut those off, and I've got the same situation here on this side, and I'll just trim those down. And right, now as you can see, because we're folding, if I was to put those all close together, I'd have difficult folding that. So this is why, and you want this sort of a gap so you can fold it, if you can see that gap there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just bring in the trusty cutter and trim those down just a fraction. Okay, and what I tend to do, all very effective, yet I like to just use a pencil and I'll trim about there, and that's the right width. Okay, so let's just trim that one off. There you go. So that's that one. The other side, I'll trim that just to there and just to there. Okay, make sure it's straight. Taking the finest bit off there. Okay, and a small amount off here. There it is there. Okay. Let's check that that fits still. Excellent. That's right. And now the centerpiece. Right, what I'm going to do, I'll turn that around. And I'm just going to trim off that small piece down the bottom there. Okay, there it is there. Right, let's get rid of that. Now let's apply this. So, left door first. Okay, let's get some glue onto that. And here we go. Okay, that's that one. I always do the outside doors first because I find if I get those into position, it's then easier to get the center one inserted. Okay, there you go. Brickwork there, and there we go there. And just check that you can fold it comfortably. Right, now we can see straight away it may be just a little bit tight, so I'm going to take the smallest margin from each edge. Well, we'll take the first one first and see how we go. Coming back. That's better. Okay, all right. So we can go with that. So we only need to trim one side. Okay, let's bring that back. Apply some glue. Okay. And there we go. Just reposition that slightly, making sure everything lines up. 5-second hold. Great. Okay, the base elements on the card fold are now in place. As I said, you don't need to do the brickwork, but that's what I've chose for this one. You could do any element of embossing or decorate it in any way. Now, there is another piece that we're going to add to this, and if you remember the video we did, I had some some daisies as the frontispiece. So we're going to decorate to that stage as well today. But first of all, what I want to do is show you how to assemble the planters now, because the planters will fit in here. As an example, you're going to glue your planters on the small side and on the back side to give you that effect, so that when you open it, the planters open as well. Okay, and there'll be two planters like this. There'll be two planters. So that one is there. So that one will sit on that side. Yes, and this one will sit on this side. and up there as an example, up higher. Okay, now, and we'll show you how we cut the flowers to do the planters in the next video. All right, so let's just put the planters together with their inserts and show you what that looks like. Now, the important thing is here, the insert needs to fit comfortably in that space. Right, and the easiest way to do that is to glue the first fold there. So let's get that underway. And I always use, for this part of the exercise, a large paper clip, because I just find it easier. Like that. And then the paper clip goes here, just to hold it, so that when I go to glue on this side, it's going to hold fast. Now, I only usually glue to this stage first. I'll show you why I say that in the next video. But let's just get this one in. Paper clip to the fore. Secure it in. And there you go. All right, and let it dry. That will close over like that to give you that sort of a look. Okay. All right, let's put those aside. What we're going to do now is look at an approach to decorating the front of the card. So let me get that ready for you. Okay, to decorate the front of the card, bear in mind this fact. You've got a gate, 3 gates. When we put this on here, or if this is the image we're going to use, along with some other imagery, you're going to have to cut the image to allow the gates to open. All right, I just remind you of that because I believe it's important you use an image or a stamp that has some height, and also it is not going to impact on the look of the image when you do cut it into 3, because you've got 3 gates. Now, I have seen this card done with 2 gates. So you only have 2 cuts to make, or 1 cut to make, sorry, as opposed to 2. But I think it needs to be tall enough, and also an image that's not going to be impacted by the cuts. So as an example, I'm using the Forever Blossoms image here. In this example, I have used the Queen Bee flower and dressed it up with some other paraphernalia. And also, as I've said here, the Quiet Meadow. The other ones that you can consider are Beautiful Thistle will also make a good image. And depending on how much time and effort you want to spend in it, will depend on which one you choose. Okay, so let's stamp this off and let's get some colour into it. Now, you notice to date the card is white, pretty white. The colour will come when we add the planters and the plants that will pop out as the card opens. Now, that is, I have coloured the brickwork in the past, but I'm going to leave this one white because it is for an elderly lady's birthday, and she's a bit like me, OCD, and loves nice, neat, clean lines. Anyway, that aside. So let's get this stamped off and we'll colour that up. Now, what I'm going to use is, I'm going to use a StazOn, simply because it will depend on what I finally decide to do in the colouring process. And I just want to make sure that we have a colour that is not going to run or spoil once we start to apply colour. All right, so let's just get this on here, nice and firm. Give it a moment to adopt, and okay, that's great. All right, now what I'll do is just get some stays on remover. One thing I found out pretty early in when I started crafting was stays on needs a special remover to enable you to get the stays on remnant off your keypad. Oh, sorry, off your keypad, off your stamp pad. Okay. So let's just get rid of that. Okay, I am going to go with some very subtle colours when it comes to colouring this plant, and I'm going to go with a yellow and yes, I'm going to go with these yellows, and this is lemon lolly and so saffron. So I'll use those for the flower parts, and I'm going to use the blends to actually bring that colour alive. And for the leaf, I'll probably use something very, very mild, and it might be soft sea foam for the leaves, and I might accent that some of the veins with a soft succulent. Okay, so let's do those now. I'll just get those blends. Lemon lolly and so daffodil. Okay, all right. Now, I'm not going to make you sit through and watch me colour for the rest of the video, but I am just going to get started. What I tend to do is I will start with the darker highlight colours first. My upline is an excellent colourist, and so I've learnt the best way to do this. Use strokes, don't do this. Strokes are always good, and if you're going to start in the centre, find those dark areas that are already accented. Get those coloured in first with your dark, with the first colour, like so. And just highlight those, highlight your accents. Right. And now come in with the lighter colours, and I'm just going with the lemon lolly, light lemon lolly, and see what this looks like. Now we may need to use other colours, the darker versions of these, just to give us enough of a contrast of colour. And I think that's what we will need to do, but let's just see how we go. So I always start with the highlighted areas, and then finish off with, or not finish off with, but then go over it with the contrasting colour, and then go back to the original colour to give us some greater depth. But I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the dark so saffron and make that my highlighted colour. So let's just reapply some of that there and see if we get enough of a contrast. And I think for my liking, I think that's what I want. Something that's very subtle. Notice I'm just using strokes, not so much sitting down colouring. Yes, that's exactly what I want. Okay, so we'll try with this one. Highlight with the darker, so saffron dark. Just those areas where it's already been accented. And then go back with the light lemon lolly. And there it is there. Okay. And I always tend to use the brush tip of this. Okay, so here we go. We've got the lighter areas. Now, the yellow was just by preference because I know this. I know the lady who's going to receive this card, and I know that she likes she likes yellow as one of her favorite colors. Okay, so let's just continue through to the next petal. Now, apparently, I was never a very good colorer, but apparently the strokes help with the fading of one colour into the start of the next colour. In such small real estate like this, you probably don't get a chance to really see that effect come alive so much, but and then just go back over the darker colour. Go back over with the darker colour, so that's the saffron dark in this case. Okay, and the final one is here. Oops, sorry, start with the dark. Highlight those accented areas. Just up here as well. Okay, and then come in with the light. There we go. And just go back in and redo those again. Okay, now that's with the yellows. Now I'm just going to do the leaves. I said I think it was mint macaron, didn't I? Mint macaron, that's soft sea foam. Or mint macaron. I'm going to go with the mint macaron. Let's see what that looks like. Start with the dark one. Wrong end. Here we go. Just stroking the colour through on those highlighted areas. I'm going to use the soft sea foam, the light one, as the lighter colour, and see what that looks like. I can see there I've just gone outside the line, but as we know, crafters have many tools at our disposal to hide such mistakes. Okay. And the last leaf is here. I'm just going to use this. To do the stems. On the base of those buds. Steady hand. And final one there. Oh no, two more here. Okay, and then finish off with the light, soft sea foam. Okay. That's good. I'm happy with that. All right, there we go. I'm very pleased with that. Now, what does that look like in our gatefold? Well, let me go and punch that out with the corresponding die, and I'll be back to you. Now, in quiet reflection, as I was finishing off the colouring of the the blossom, I also went in and cut out some corresponding blooms, and in this case I die cut those, and in these ones I fussy cut them, as there wasn't a corresponding die, but that's quite okay. But also, as I was working on that, I thought, now what's the best way to cut this blossom? So let me show you what I mean. So what I've taken the liberty to do is cut the blossom in advance, but I'll show you what the end result looks like. And it's a result that serves us well because it has minimal impact to the actual blossom of the flower. You can see I've cut it here and also here. So leaving us a bit of real estate down the bottom there. So what are we going to do with that? Well, I thought what we would do is add some other blossoms. And of the ones that I found, I thought these looked best. And I'll separate those with some leaves. So this is what it could look like if we go down this path. I'll leave this space here for the sentiment, so I'll just move those over a fraction. This, right. Never work without your putty stick. I didn't even know there was putty in it. It doesn't look like I even know how to use it. I didn't even know there was putty in this thing until some months after having purchased it. And what I find I do now is, whilst I remember it's there, when I do turn it on by squeezing, or by tightening this, the putty dribbles out. But sometimes I tighten it too much and never get it to turn off dribbling. Anyway, it's an invaluable tool for when you want to pick up things and just drop them, as evidenced here. Okay, so it could look something similar to this in the decoration process. Voila. Okay, and there we would have the full length of the card. As I said, I don't normally do my cards 6 inches. They usually finish at around 5-inch mark, and in that case, this is plenty of room. But I think if the birthday sentiment going in here, these plants in the bottom base, I think we've got a good image that we can work with on our gatefold. So let me come back to you. I'll finish gluing that together, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm back, and we've assembled the card with the front decoration. It's just about finished, but I just want to draw your attention to a couple of aspects. So if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm big on texture and height. I think it just gives the card something else of interest as opposed to just the visual being the point of interest. So, and to that point, what I tend to do is I'll fold leaves as such, just to give them, well, in this case, the leaves I've been using the leaves to give them some extra dimension. The other thing that I also do, if you've seen other videos, you will have heard this. However, what I tend to do is all of the sentiments that I apply to any card, I will always stamp them, and then I suppose my signature is to fussy cut them. Now, and then what I'll do is burnish the edges of the fussy cut, like so. Now, why do I do that? I don't know, point of difference, I suppose. But, it's just another way for creating texture and height too. And what I'm going to do there is I'll just mount that onto some dimensionals, and pick that over. One there, if it goes, one there, and another one there. Okay. Right. And normally these just lift off, but this one is doing an upstage. Okay, and I'm just going to place, I like things to overlap to some degree. No, let's go with here. Okay. All right, there's our sentiment and the front of the card. I'll put in some bling, some yellow dots there. And then, as I said, in the next video, what we're going to do is insert our planters. And they would go in there like that with their inserts. And the inserts, we've already attached those. I'm going to leave them all open until we finish cutting our plants and adding those in there, and then we'll glue it and dry it and insert these. But that'll be in the next video. So until then, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you've learned something, and I hope to see you at the next video. Thank you guys. Take care.